of us have some relatives and some friends, and I have some coworkers. Obviously, the people that do a lot of our medical stuff outside of the Lions are on the front lines, and talking to those guys, it's amazing what they're doing. So, thank you to all them. Also to the public safety officials, the police, fire, EMTs, those people out there, doing what they do to keep us safe. The delivery workers, you guys have it at your houses, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, US Mail. I mean, my little mini draft room here would not be functional right now without those deliveries coming in over the last couple of weeks. So thank you to those guys, grocery store workers, obviously restaurant workers for pickup and delivery. They've been amazing. It's different times, but we're adjusting. So, and really to all the essential employees out there, we thank them, from the Lions to everyone else out there. Thank you for what you're doing. I want to thank Mrs. Ford and her family for the support they've given us over the last 4 weeks. The resources that they've given us to kind of get our setups up and running. It's been great. We feel good about where we're at from a technology standpoint, and we're excited about heading out there and getting the draft done next week. Want to say thank you to my family, my wife, my children. It's obviously different times here. Usually this time of year I'm not home very much, so now I'm home 24 hours a day. So they've been great. They've been supportive. They've been helpful. My kids are upstairs in their virtual classrooms as we speak. So it's pretty cool to let them kind of continue their learning with me being able to kind of come downstairs here and do my work. To the scouts and coaches, I want to thank all those guys. We've done our work a little differently this year, obviously, for the last month, but I think we've done it well. Done a really good job of adjusting, adapting to the new norm right now for doing things virtually, and those guys have done an outstanding job with communication. The IT staff from the Lions, I can't say enough about those guys. It's been absolutely amazing what those guys have been able to do for myself and a lot of people in the organization to get us up and running. You guys know who you are, and I'll just say I can't imagine a better crew in the league. They've been really, really outstanding. Also want to thank the players and Coach Patricia for, what they did with rallying the funds for the empowerment plan and the food trucks at the hospitals over the last couple of weeks. I think, those guys are doing great stuff in the community. I know a lot of our players are doing stuff individually too. I know the Staffords have done some stuff. Trey Flowers, Christian Jones, Frank Ragnow, JD, and Marvin the other day. I think he did something in California. So it's really cool to see that. Really, it's to be reflective here for a minute. We all, myself, our coaches, our scouts, you guys in the media, we feel like our jobs are so important. But really, when you think about it and you kind of look back over the last month, we're really not that important. With the magnitude of what's going on in the country, it's really the people in the front lines, like I've mentioned before, the doctors and the nurses and those people. They're doing incredible things. So again, to those people, thank you very much. One last thing before we get started, in regards to the draft-a-thon, our team has chosen Feeding America as our nonprofit that we're going to support. It's a group that helps the food banks kind of replenish in times of need. So we're gonna get on that next week. We're working with the NFL and our community relations department to bring that to life in Detroit and in the state of Michigan. So we're gonna have more information on that here next week for you guys. But myself, along with Rod and Coach Patricia and the Ford family, we're all excited to help and do our part in kicking off the draft-a-thon next Thursday. So, with that, I'll open up for questions from here.
Okay, Mike O'Hara.
Okay, Bob Quinn and Eamon, thanks for arranging all of this. Bob, obviously there's been an awful lot of attention on this pick, and I know some people say the draft starts with the Detroit Lions at 3. I just wonder, with all the options that may be or are available to you at number 3, how confident are you that you're going to come away with something that's really going to be impactful for the Detroit Lions? And also, and you've stressed this throughout your tenure here in Detroit, that the draft isn't over after one pick. So how, given the circumstances of this year, how do you think you can get perhaps the same sort of level of success you've had in previous years of getting players for draft and for development and starting caliber players deep in like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds?
Yep. Good to see you, Mike. Obviously, with the number 3 pick or wherever we end up picking, like hopefully the idea is to get an impactful player. And I think if There's a number of players up in that top of the draft that we feel good about. We'll see what happens next Thursday, but I feel like that's the goal, and I think we have enough guys in that range that we think we can do that. In the second part of your question, I would say, we went through our normal process. It was just a little bit different. So, our goal is to get, impactful players throughout the draft, whether they're starters in the middle rounds or just backup and role players and special teams players later in the draft. So, our goals haven't changed. The circumstances have, obviously, but we can't use that as an excuse. We have to go out there and do the best of our ability to draft grade the players, evaluate the players, and then put them at the correct place on the draft board. So next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, when it's our time to pick, we feel comfortable with the selection.
Next, Dave Burkett.
Hey Bob, good to see you. Can you and hope the family's doing well. Can you take us through some of the logistics of the draft this year? I guess, like maybe even, I don't know if that's a background, but show us what some of your at-home war room looks like, or just how are you designating your personnel to help manage, trade discussions, keep track of the needs board, kind of everything that goes on with what's changed to avoid hiccups.
Yeah, I'll kind of take that in maybe two parts, Dave. I'm not going to give you a picture of my setup here because I really don't have that capability right now. But basically, I'm at my house. I have a home office that I use occasionally during the season and occasionally during the off season. Not very much, but I'm staring at a TV to my right. I have three monitors to my left. I have two laptops. I have a huge, what we call our draft phone. I have my home phone. I have two cell phones, and I have a printer. So that's kind of my setup that I'm looking at right now. I think, obviously we can't replicate our draft boards in my, small home office here. So all the draft boards, the needs boards, all those things will be emailed. They'll be printed. They'll probably be screen shared on some platform that we're still evaluating which one we want to use next week, but we have two good options that we're kind of narrowed it down to. And then we'll have redundancies on everything. So we'll have at my house, in Coach Patricia's house, we'll have redundancy for internet, redundancy for power, redundancy for phones. So, I would say our IT department, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, they've done an outstanding job of setting us up. So I feel really good about the setup. I feel confident that's going to work. Everything that we've done in the last 4 weeks, and I think I've been home in this home office for, yesterday was a month. So everything's worked good. Obviously, in the last week or so, I've gotten more stuff, I'd say, delivered to my house for technology, just for the draft itself. And some of that stuff is getting tested out over the next couple of days with the league, in terms of that, the camera that's going to be here and all those things. But I think big picture wise, we're in a good spot technology wise, and we're going to do a couple internal tests and trial runs here. And the league is having a mock trial run on Monday that we'll participate in.
Okay, Michael Rothstein.
Yeah, hey Bob, how are you? Two things. First, just to follow on that a little bit, like how are you going to delineate maybe your scouts versus, you and Matt and Kyle? Like, are you going to have separate Zoom chats? You have separate screens? What's going to be the plan there? And then I have a second question when you're done with that.
Yeah, we're working through that. We're going to have one, Zoom or Teams or whatever we decide to do here with the smaller group. You know what I mean? There's going to be whatever 8 or 10 of us in that virtual draft room, and then they're going to have a secondary call with everybody else that would be in the room, from the scouting guys that are live in different parts of the country, that are obviously in our draft room for a normal draft. But the people that are at the two main tables in our normal draft will be on a separate call on 8 people. So there'll probably be 2, virtual calls going on at once. That's kind of how we have it planned out.
Justin Rogers.
I think Mike had a follow-up.
Yeah, Mike had a second one.
Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
All good. Yeah, and then when it comes to the number 3 pick, At what point do you really start having intense conversations about maybe trying to move off of that pick? Because it seems like you guys are in a situation where that might be the spot where teams might move up or try to move up.
Yeah, so you're asking like when those calls happen?
Yeah, like how many maybe substantive conversations have you had to this point? Are those going to maybe happen on Wednesday, on Thursday? Like, walk me through the timeline of that.
Yeah, I mean, we have conversations, myself and my staff, we're doing our normal pre-draft calls like we do every year, which we call every team in the league, kind of see what they're thinking. Obviously I'll handle the calls that are a little bit closer to our pick, especially this year since we're drafting at 3. I've had a few of those conversations over the last week or so. Had a few of those conversations, honestly, as far back as the combine. And then there'll be, more substantive talks next week if people are interested. And, I think just the way the world we're living in with this being virtual, I think a lot of those things, if I'm going to do something, I think we'll kind of probably have a pretty good idea, Thursday afternoon of kind of where we stand. I don't think I'm going to be making a huge decision on trading the number 3 overall pick while I'm on the clock, while I'm virtually talking to our head coach and our other personnel.
Justin Rogers.
Just to clarify, Bob, do you have any offers on the table currently for that pick?
I never go into conversations I have with other teams. You know that.
Oh, I wasn't asking for specifics. Just curious if there were offers that you were weighing currently.
I never talk about the conversations I have with other teams. Sorry, Jeff.
No, fair enough. You mentioned at the combine, I believe, that there are tiers of players, and you said the top tier was at that time you were thinking around 6 or 7. Could you see any scenario where you would move back far enough that you'd fall out of that first tier of talent?
I could see a scenario, yes, but ideally, no. It really, obviously, I'd say this all the time, but it takes 2 teams to do a trade. So when you're trading back, and like you said, if you're going to trade back, to after 10 or 11, then you got to know the ramifications of that. You're going to get a different level player. So that has to be factored in with the compensation you're going to get back, and if you feel good about losing out on one of those guys that you like, hire.
Okay, Justin Rose.
Hey, Bob, how are you today? A lot of talk, obviously, about trading potentially back from 3, but you guys don't want to be in a scenario where you're picking this high again. That would probably not be the goal. That being said, how important is it to make sure you get an absolute game changer, whether you take any position at this spot? I mean, how much of a precedent have you put on making sure that this pick is someone who's going to help morph this franchise into what you guys want it to be?
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, we have high expectations for whoever we draft, but we know, especially in the situation we're in now, I think, when you're going through the draft, you got to really look for a certain type of player that's going to be able to come in and contribute, probably without an off-season program. Like right now we're going to do 3 weeks of virtual off-season program, and then the league's going to let us know after that. So how much time are these rookies going to have to learn the system? I don't know. That's really up in the air right now. So I think we have to do a good job of making sure the evaluation and the player we select can come in right away, especially with if we're drafting that early, come in day one and be a player, be a guy that can help us win games. We always give rookies some little bit of leeway to learn the system and all those things. But I think this year's a little different. So we got to make sure we're making the right decision, that a guy can come in maybe without a full off-season program and come in and contribute. So that's the goal every year. That hasn't changed. I think we're just in a little different, obviously, atmosphere right now.
Okay, Tim Twentyman.
Hey, Bob, thanks for taking the time. You guys, had limited pro days and you don't have the 30 pre-draft visits. How has that changed your preparation for the draft, and how have you guys adjusted to that?
Yeah, good question, Tim. So what we did was, we tried to be as normal as possible. Just before we, everything. Let me go back. So we get back from the combine. One of the first things we do when we come back from the combine is set our schedule, set our coach's schedule. Hey, Coach A, you're going to go see these, 10 players. Coach B, you're going to see these 10 players. Whatever that number is, it varies by coach. And then obviously myself, hey, I want to go see these, these players. And so we kind of stuck to that list of guys we wanted to see and we wanted to see in person. We just did it virtually. The coaches did a lot of Zoom calls. We had our normal top 30 list that we wanted to bring into Detroit. We just transformed that into a 30 visit Zoom with, myself and coach and Kyle and Lance and the coordinator. So we have, 6, 7, 8 people on that Zoom with the top players. So, this year, the league rule is 30 if you're doing it in person. But when you're doing Zoom, virtual, FaceTime, all those, the rules are relaxed, so you can do a lot more. So we actually took advantage of that and did probably more than we normally did. Difference being, these Zoom calls or these FaceTime calls they can only be an hour long, based on league rule. So you normally have a guy at your facility for, say, 6 or 7 hours. So these are different. You got to condense it. You got to kind of work through the technology of watching film with the guy and talk to him about scheme. But I think we did a good job of organizing that. Credit to my staff, my scouting staff, and our player development department, really organizing those calls and making sure we were very, I'd say, organized. We had a daily schedule that we went through, started in the morning, and we did, 6 or 7 every day, ending up a couple days ago.
Dave Burkett.
So I lost my train of thought there for a second. I guess positive for COVID yet.
I didn't hear that question. Sorry.
Has anyone tested positive for COVID-19 in your organization?
No, not that I'm aware of.
And then the other thing that I just wanted to make sure we cover here was this is the first time we've talked to you since the Darius Slay trade. Can you just explain why you made that move and how big of a need do you still feel you have at the cornerback position?
Yeah, with the Slay thing, obviously that was something we had talked about. Since the offseason began, a couple of teams were interested in him. Had conversations at the combine, had more conversations, in the beginning part of free agency, and just thought, it was the best thing for the team. Just with the parameters of kind of what was going on with his contract and some of the things about the future, what the needs were from his end of things. And, we thought the best thing to do was to move that, get the draft compensation and go out in free agency. And obviously we had a couple corners, and that's something that, we felt like was the best thing for the team at that time. Had a really good conversation with Darius a couple weeks ago when we ended up doing the trade. It was good on the end from my standpoint. And, those are always tough decisions. Like, he's a good football player. We all know that. Sometimes you just have to make the decision you think is the best for us.
Chris Burke.
Hey, Bob. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, Chris.
Wanted to ask, obviously, the Senior Bowl experience seemed like it was going to be an advantage anyway, and now that teams can't meet with players in person, seems like even more so. Just wondering how much that's changed, or having that extra time with those players has changed what you've done over the last few weeks here, and if you've had to circle back with those guys, or if you're feeling pretty comfortable with where you're at with the players you had there.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think looking back, in hindsight, it was a great benefit to us. I would say the majority of the players that were on our team at the Senior Bowl, I think we were comfortable with the evaluation of the player and the person and the character fit and the culture fit and the mental football capacities. I think we've circled back with a handful of those guys, but going back to, we get back from the combine, we set our list of who we're going to go see in the spring. And, I remember distinctly saying, hey, we spent time with all these guys on our team at the Senior Bowl. So unless we really have a question we need to answer, let's use our resources elsewhere and go see other players. So that week was great for us. I think we have, like I said, I think we've circled back with a handful of them, but for the most part, we felt really good leaving that week that we kind of knew at least our roster, our side of the ball, really well.
Jamie Edmonds.
Hi, Bob. My question is there added pressure this offseason because of what the Ford said with Win Now? And then has this lockdown just compounded that?
Yeah, I answer this question the same way. I think you guys know what's coming. I feel pressure every day. I wake up and do my job. What was said was said. And listen, I've had really, really good conversations I mean, all the time with the Ford family, and we really have a great working relationship, and they want to win, and that's our goal too. So the pressure is the same for me. It always has been from day one to right now. So I feel that, this year with the circumstances we're in, it's different, but everybody's playing the same. Goes right with the virtual draft and the virtual draft preparation. So like I said, we're ready. We're excited about it, and we're ready to get going on Thursday.
Michael Stats.
How you doing, Bob? In regards to the recent COVID-19 news with Von Miller and Brian Allen, what was your reaction to that? And how much more concerned are you now for your own team due to now that there's NFL players that have tested positive?
Yeah, obviously, high level of concern. We check in on our players multiple times a week. Our assistant coaches are talking to those guys, checking in on them, making sure their families are healthy, they're healthy. And just, it's something that I worry about, I think about. It's something that's obviously scary to all of us. I'm sure everybody in this call knows somebody or has heard of a story of someone that's been sick. So, fortunately right now, like I said, nobody on our team has tested positive that I'm aware of, and we've been in contact with everyone. But, to answer your question, it's scary, just like it is for you guys. When you go to the grocery store or you go wherever, you're nervous. So I'm nervous for our team. I'm nervous for my family, as we all are. So it's something that, I think the league is going to come out with some guidelines about how we're really going to deal with this once we get back to having players in our facility. It's really not going to be up to us. The league's going to mandate of when guys can come in and how that's going to really kind of flow once we're hopefully past this.
Nick Baumgartner.
Hey, Bob. I'm not sure if we've gotten into the Corey Undlin hire with you since you guys made the decision. What about Corey specifically, maybe with what areas defensively do you feel like he can maybe upgrade or give you some things that you maybe need that you didn't have last year?
Yeah, Corey's a guy I've known for a long time. His expertise is the secondary. I think that's, he's been a defensive backs coach basically his entire career. So I think that's probably his forte, but I think he's really well-rounded with the front, linebacker play, pressure packages. He's coached for a lot of different coordinators and head coaches, so I think he has a lot of different ideas that might expand our playbook a little bit and be able to kind of put a different perspective on some of the things we do, which I think will be beneficial to everybody. I think it's one of the things Coach and I spoke about, when we interviewed Corey. Felt really good about that. He's a great person. He really connects with the players. I only worked with Corey personally for 1 year. The 1 year he was in New England and he was a quality control coach. But I've gotten text messages, phone calls from players that I know around the league that played for him at other spots just randomly about, his ability to connect with the players. And I would say just the little bit that he's interacted with some of these draft prospects, some of the pro days that we were at before we got shut down, we were at together. And he's got a unique way about him to really connect with today's player and, get the best out of him. So we're excited about that. Excited about Corey. He's done a great job helping us with the draft. He's a good evaluator, a good communicator. So I think it's a good addition.
Kyle Meinke.
Hey, Bob. Excuse me. Thanks for your time. There's a lot of reports out there right now about Tua and the medicals there. There's a report that he failed multiple team physicals. What can you say about the concerns you have there, the concerns that are out there about his health and how it might impact the trade market for that pick?
Yep. We're actually having our medical meeting this afternoon, so I don't have our final medical grades yet. Our doctors and trainers have been compiling that over the last month or so after the combine. I've gotten, updates across the way. So I don't have any really comment about where we stand. I'm not going to give out our medical grade on him or any other player. But just for me, I don't have that information right now of where we stand. We have about a 4-hour meeting scheduled for later today to kind of go over the whole draft in terms of medical. And these medical things are a moving target. Some guys might not have a grade that's great right today, but in 2 months they might be looking a little better. So sometimes those situations, it's kind of a moving target. Our doctors might tell us, hey, right now, if we were starting the off-season program tomorrow, he might be a little limited, but in 2 months he's going to be fine. So some of those things are different for each individual player. I think Tua had his surgery a while back, so The little video that I've seen of him moving around looks pretty good. Gotten some, obviously, the stuff that you guys have seen online, but we've gotten some other stuff via email that's been sent out to all the teams. So, from the layman's, from a computer view, it looks like he's moving pretty good, but we'll get the report later.
Jeff Rieger.
Hey, Bob, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. Just curious, what do you make of all the former players coming out against Matt Patricia? And is this problematic? I mean, we're talking about Slay, Snacks, Glover, Quinn. Is this a problem?
I'd say no. I'd say, I haven't talked about it a ton, but I think, you can go ask anybody in the locker room right now what they think of Coach and how he runs the team, and they're 100% behind him. You can't make everybody happy in this business in terms of how you do certain things. But I can just say from the guys that we signed in free agency, the guys that wanted to be here, the guys that actually, a number of guys in our free agent class, reached out to us. Obviously, we liked them as players, but in the weeks leading up to free agency, those guys had their agent call me and say, hey, my guy wants to be there and play for Coach. So, and just having conversations with guys like Daron Harmon, who we traded for. I mean, I've never seen a player more excited to be traded. And we've done a lot of trades here since I've been here than Daron Harmon. I mean, he was literally jumping out of my FaceTime, wanting to come out here immediately. So I have no concerns with that at all.
Sean Belegian.
Good morning, Bob. Thanks for doing this for us.
Yep.
You talked about the tiers for the draft. Is this kind of your own variation on the old draft value pick? How much can you get into that? Jimmy Johnson did that, in the late 90s? Is that kind of your own variation?
Yeah, can you remind me the tiers? Did I talk about that at the Combine?
Yeah, you did a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the Jimmy Johnson thing's totally different. The Jimmy Johnson is the trade value chart. So I'm not sure you guys have probably seen it online, that each pick is worth a number value. So that's really for trades. Obviously when you're talking about values, you're talking about tiers in the draft. If you drop from your tier 1 to your tier 2, then you're getting a different level player. So, the draft value chart might get thrown out the window, because if you're going to do that, you better get a huge return. You better win that trade on the value chart, double. So I'm not sure exactly where you're getting at with the Jimmy Johnson value chart. We use our own. I think that one's been updated over and over again since that came out. And with the new rookie wage scale that came out a few years ago, that kind of threw a wrinkle into all the old trade charts, because the compensation is much more even across the board for the rookie contract. So we had to redo our trade value chart there.
Ken Brown.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Good.
When you guys do your evaluations, when it comes to your pick, if it's number 3, and your evaluations say that player is the quarterback, even though it might not help you this year, and you can't get trade value for it, are you immune to taking a pick this year that might not be able to help your team this year?
Yeah, my goal is to take the best overall player that can help us, whether that's tomorrow, whether it's this season or next season. Ideally, that player can help us this season, obviously, but that's something that you have to take into account. If you have a guy that's just by far and away the best player on the board, and it's not a position of need, you have to have a long conversation, because sometimes that's when you make mistakes. But it's different for everybody. I think this year's unique for a lot of different reasons. But we're trying to get the best, put together the best team, whether that's through the draft, free agency, or any other avenue that we use throughout the season. But I think it's something that we have to really take a hard look at.
Jennifer Hammond.
Oh, you unmuted me. Thank you. Hey, so Bob, 6 of your 8 free agent signings this offseason have been on the defensive side of the ball. I've kind of got a 2-pronged question. How do you feel like you guys worked to solidify that side of the ball with some of the inconsistencies you had last season? And as well, does that give you more ability to go offense with that first-round pick?
Yeah, good observation, Jennifer. It's something that we set out to do at the start of the offseason, was to improve the defense. Obviously, we didn't, that wasn't up to par last year, so that's something we went out and tried to do. I think that does open up the draft for us, whether that's early, whether that's mid or late. Obviously, I think you're looking at our depth chart right now. We could probably go out there and play, line up a defense and go play competitively right now. Obviously, we want to improve that. We want to improve that every day. So that's something that, was good. And I think, one thing that we talked about, heading into the off season, we got off the road, when this whole thing really, I was at a pro day. I can't remember where it was. I think it was Clemson. I think Clemson was the last pro day I was at. And, we got back that weekend and we started, talking about our final plans for free agency. And, we had to take all our scouts off the road and we had really nobody at the office. It was really just a couple of us that were dealing with free agency at the office. So, some of the defensive players we picked up in free agency that had familiarity with our system kind of, that made the most sense for us because we didn't know if we were going to have an off-season program. We just knew that something was, really different about this off-season. So, go out and we had the Deron Harmon trade that kind of started off free agency. And that kind of made us think a little bit more about maybe getting some guys on defense that have been in the system, know the terminology. So if we do have an abbreviated off-season, hopefully we can be maybe one step ahead of the game. But to say that the defense was a priority is correct, and we feel like we've upgraded at really each position group. I think we've added somebody or multiple players, so hopefully that works.
Larry Lage.
So if I could squeeze two in, what's it like to work at home with children, and what kind of contingency plans are you working on in case your off-season programs shorten, training camp, the season, all of that?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's been great. You wake up in the morning, you can come down, you can work. You run upstairs at 8:20 and make sure your 14-year-old son is out of bed so he's ready for school. Make sure, it's good to take a 20-30 minute break at lunchtime and go over to the kitchen and you can actually have a meal with your kids, which is, for me, as you guys know, doesn't happen very often. So that's really cool. Then the same thing for dinner, and then you can actually see them before they go to bed. So it's been different. It's been an adjustment, no question. But I think it's something that we've embraced. Once we kind of got direction from the league that we were kind of shut down and we were probably pushing towards a virtual draft, we just jumped in. And like I said at the beginning, my wife and my kids, they've helped. They're old enough now where they know I need privacy and I need to go out here and work. I know it's a lot more difficult with people with younger kids that they can't really control that. I totally understand that. I'm very fortunate. I can't imagine if I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old running around my house right now. But it's been really cool. To spend this amount of time with them doesn't happen. You guys know what the NFL life is, and the amount of time that we spend at Allen Park is crazy during the season and in draft prep. So it's been interesting. It's been productive, and I can't thank them enough for helping me because they come in and they help me move around some stuff in my office, and it's been pretty cool. The bonding has been brought to a different level. And then the second part of your question, off-season program, I'll kind of hit this. We kind of made the determination, coach and our staff, we're going to start our virtual off-season program on April 27th. So that's not next Monday, it's the following Monday. And really what the league's told us is just plan on the virtual phase 1 for 3 weeks, and then they'll kind of get back to us about what we're going to do after that. So we're really taking it in, week-to-week segments, but we know we're going to do a virtual off-season program for the first 3 weeks at least.
Wojo.
Bob, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Having the third pick, obviously an unusual situation, unusual spot for you, and an unusual spot in this draft. As people have said, that's sort of where perhaps maneuvering may begin in this draft at the third pick. In this unusual situation, how do you have to weigh more the value of the pick and what you can get for it versus just taking the player you want? In other words, you might be a perfectly fine player there at number 3, but is that getting maximum value from the number 3 pick?
Yeah, it's something we're consistently talking about. What kind of player can you get at 7, 8, 9, 10, 5? It's all those conversations, and just you kind of have the list of the players you like, right? And then you work backwards. So if you like 6 guys and you feel like you can move back and they're all similar graded, then you try to do that. If there's a grade variance in those 6 players, and you only feel really good about 3 or 4 of them, then you can't go back as far. So it's a constant conversation. It's a good question. It's something that we've been having over the last, I'd say, 2 weeks. And we'll talk more about it, over the weekend and into next week about those opportunities. But like I said at the beginning, you can't just say, hey, I'm going to trade. You need a trade partner. So you need somebody that wants to come up, and those conversations are happening, and we'll see where they turn out next week.
Stacey Dales.
Hey, Bob, thanks for your time today, and glad you guys are all safe. My question was sort of like Woj's there, just weighing value versus need. When you pick as high as 3, which is a position, as people have mentioned, you haven't been in. And, we hear the conjecture with players like Brown and Okuda defensively, and obviously 2 different spectrums there defensively. So weighing the need versus the value. And then the second part for me is I don't believe you've ever made a first-round trade as the GM of the Lions with a pick as high as this one. What excites you about the leverageability of the 3rd pick?
Yeah, I'll start with the second one. So, yeah, it's exciting. Obviously, it's different. You're looking at hopefully a different level player than we've been taking in the past, and we felt like we've done a pretty good job with drafting in the first round. My first 4 years here, so it's a different level of player. I've never been here in my career. Hopefully, never am here again. But it's we take the opportunity, right? It's the opportunity to go out and get hopefully an impact player that can help our franchise for years to come, and that's the goal. So a little bit more, I'd say, media attention to the pick, obviously, with being that high. But like I said at the beginning, our process is the same of evaluating it, and we'll go through the scenarios of the 3rd pick compared to the picks behind it. And if there's an opportunity to move back, it just has to make sense. It has to make sense that you're comfortable getting a player that you really like if you move back to a certain spot. So we'll take all that into consideration. We'll and some of that's instinct, some of that's value, some of that's the player. It's all combined. It's not one computer project that you just type it in and say do it or not. It's you got to have that feel about where you can go down to and what kind of player you can get later on.
Brad Galley.
Bob, thanks for doing this. To have that number 3 pick, kind of another 2-pronged question. I know a lot of people have been doing that, but how much have you enjoyed using your best poker faces throughout a lot of these trade talks and conversations that you're having with other teams? And then within all the questions that arise, having that number 3 pick, a lot of questions, you've answered some about Matthew Stafford, his health have come up. Last year, he was a game time decision and then never played for the rest of the year. What happened then, and how comfortable are you with Matthew's health as you go into this draft?
Yeah, Matthew's doing great. He's probably like me. He's home with children, and he calls me probably once a week to check in. I know he's working out. I know he's feeling good. So health-wise, he's good to go. As I said at the end of the season, if we were starting our off-season program this next week, he'd be there as a full participant. So he is cleared. He's cleared medically from that standpoint. So what was the second part of the question? Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. I started it off with just saying how much you've enjoyed using your varying poker faces throughout all these conversations.
Yeah, well, that's kind of part of the game. Obviously, what we try to do. It's really, I have a great deal of respect for all the other GMs, and I'm really personally friends with a large number of them. So a lot of them I've worked with over the years at a very intimate level. So you do that. You have to make those calls. They understand what we're doing, and I understand where they're coming from. So you can't tell them obviously who you're drafting and who you like, but you just gotta be truthful and just tell them, hey, this is what it would take if you guys want to come get this pick. And just you have that conversation, and it's not a 5-minute phone call. It's a lot of back and forth. It's like, all right, let me call you back next week. Let me call you back Thursday, and we'll talk more. So this is ever evolving when you try to trade a pick, if we can trade a pick, because as of right now, we're 6 days out, so there's nothing set in stone.
Okay, guys, we got time for the last 6 questions on the queue here, beginning with Dave.
Bob, 2 things. Just the first one is a real quick follow-up to Sean's question, I think, from earlier. And how many players are in your tier 1 of players in this draft?
Not going to answer that question.
Okay. And then 2, why have teams historically shied away from cornerbacks, I guess, in the top 5? And what would you have to see from, a player at that position in order to think he could, be worth that pick?
Yeah, I'm not sure why teams have shied away. Honestly, I don't. I think it's a position that's obviously critical and has high value in the league. Really, when you look at corners, basically you have 3 corners that are starters in professional football now. We go back to a free agency a year ago. We signed Justin Coleman to play nickel, and we paid him like a starter because we feel like you need 3 starting level corners to have a productive defense. So why teams have shied away, I can't really answer that. You'd have to ask the teams that have passed. I've never been this high in the draft to experience that. But in terms of the corner position, I think there's a number of players this year that are really, really high quality corners. I think it's a deep class. I think it's a deep class that you can get great value later on in the draft too for guys that can come in and contribute right away. And they're all shapes and sizes. There's some really undersized guys that are really just great football players. There's some bigger guys that have a great skill set as well. So, it's something that, it's not unique to take one in the top 5. It's just it's gotta make sense for your club.
Justin Rogers.
Hey, Bob, you've always kind of left a buffer when it comes to cap space, rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it. Seem to be sitting on a bigger amount than normal this year. I just wonder if that's symptomatic of what we're going through with the COVID. You've got certain roster issues you still feel like you need to address with in-house, or you anticipate a second wave of free agency or trade options. What do you I guess got in mind with what you're working with?
Yeah, we have a little bit of room. I think you guys have access to the cap data. Obviously, there's other factors involved, as you guys realize, about other types of budgets. I think we spent a considerable amount of money in free agency this year at various different positions. So we have other things on the horizon, whether that's internally or whether that's stuff that we're going to do into the season that we're planning for with some of our current players.
Michael Rothstein.
Yeah, hey Bob. I have a really quick question, then maybe a little bit of a deeper question. First is, do you think there will be a season this year?
I do think there will be a season, but I haven't been told that. I'm like you guys. I'm hoping that this pandemic gets cleared up as soon as possible, and we can get back to life as normal. That's including our home lives and our family lives as well as our professional lives. So if I had to guess, yes, but I don't know. I don't know. That's something that we're waiting for the league to tell us about as we get further down the road.
And this is maybe toward the latter end of the draft, but will this year be maybe different or more difficult for guys that are UDFAs to be evaluated and to figure out, because they won't get potentially the rookie minicamp? They might not get some of those same looks that they would normally get.
Yes, excellent question, Michael. Yes, I think it's going to be harder, not impossible, but for guys that are later round picks, rookie free agents, really their time to impress and get on the radar and get real reps in training camp is during the spring, right? Because you have more opportunity. Some of your veterans aren't taking as many reps, as you guys know, in the OTA practices. So you can get a lot of these young late draft picks and rookie free agents a ton of reps in the spring. And then if they show that they're capable and they deserve a chance to compete, then they're going to get more reps during the early part of training camp to really be able to make the team. So if we're not going to have a normal off season, we're already going to be delayed at least 3 weeks. It's going to be harder for that. So it's kind of something we've talked about internally for sure. Fortunately for us, our roster's at, I believe, 78 right now. So I think we're at 78 with Kenny Wiggins on yesterday. So really, we're not going to have a huge number of undrafted free agents. We're going to have a handful, depending on what happens.
Justin Rose.
Hey, Bob. Just looking at some of the deeper picks here. I know so much attention on the first round and whatnot, but maybe what are some of the things that you've been able to take away from the picks that have panned out, a la Tracy Walker or some of those guys, as opposed to some of the picks that maybe haven't panned out? Have you learned maybe anything in the past few years about what a player or person has to make it work, as opposed to the ones that maybe don't?
Yeah, that's something we constantly do. We constantly go back and evaluate ourselves and go back and say, why did this work? Why did that not work? So it's something it's not an exact science, unfortunately. There's different circumstances for every player that you take, whether it's the team around them, whether it's the position that we put them in, whether it's an injury. So there's a ton of factors, but to answer your question, we definitely go back. I go back every year, go back to as far as, my first year here and look at the mistakes we made, look at the good things we did and kind of go forward for that. So there's a core criteria that we always try to stick by. But as you get into the middle and late rounds, that criteria kind of dwindles a little bit because all the players can't check all the boxes once you get down later in the draft.
All right, guys, our last three will be Michael Stetz, Chris Burke, and Jennifer Hammond.
Yeah, but I just wanted to follow up with what you were talking about with Michael Rothstein a couple of questions ago on the league. One, are you confident it'll start on time? And also, has there been any dialogue with you as to possible contingency plans if it does start, if it is delayed or things along those lines? Or are they just operating business as usual?
Yeah, I personally, and as an organization, we haven't had a lot of dialogue with the league about the season or anything like that. The latest dialogue that we've really been concentrating on is how this draft is going to work, number one, and how the start of the virtual off-season program is going to work. So we've had no communication about the season whatsoever.
Chris Burke.
Bob, I just wanted to ask about the offensive line real quick. Signed Vaitai, obviously lost Rick and Graham are gone. Is Vaitai, are you expecting him to be your right tackle, or is that still open for discussion? Just where do you see the need still at that position or that group?
Yeah, Vaitai is a guy we obviously like a lot. One of the best things about him is we feel like he can play two positions, and he has played two positions. So does he have the ability to play right tackle? Absolutely. Can he go inside and play guard at a high level? We think he can. So that's one of the reasons why he was kind of a target for us because, depending on what happens in the draft and the rest of free agency, we feel like we could plug him in either spot. Obviously, he has more experience at tackle. This guy played left tackle in the Super Bowl. He's played a bunch of games of tackle behind really two outstanding tackles at the Eagles. So he has versatility to play both. We'll kind of see where the roster shapes up here in another 3 or 4 weeks and kind of solidify the depth chart going into the offseason.
Thanks. Last one, Jennifer.
I know that there have been a lot of conversations and reports out there in the media about potentially having the NFL season begin without fans. With such an emotional game and where the fans are such a huge part, just kind of give me your sense on that possibility and how you think it could impact things and just your reaction when you hear that could be a way to get the season started on time.
Yeah, obviously, number one, we want to be safe, right? I think that's what everybody wants. So I think we're in different times. Number two, it would be vastly different, right? It would be very, very unusual. It would be can't really put it into words how different it would be. It's something that we would probably have to talk at length with our players about how to handle it, without the atmosphere and the energy level. You have to bring that energy yourself. So just to be honest, Jennifer, I haven't put a lot of thought into that. So it's a really good question that, I think, once we dive into this, and if that is the case, which I have no idea if that's going to be the case or not, if that's the case, that's something that we'll address with our players and our organization. But, hopefully we all get past this. Like I said at the beginning of the call, we all work together to, get the country back healthy again and work together as communities to really put everybody back at ease, and hopefully we can get back to life as normal, and then that would include football. Obviously, it would be secondary to life, but to include football being normal again would be great for the country. And I think, with the draft next week, that will give everybody a little bit of relief. And hopefully, like I said at the beginning, we can raise a lot of money with the draft-a-thon. I think that's incredible. It's an incredible way for our fans that could really help us help the communities. And we're excited to be a part of that.